I'm Brittany Lewis with Forbes Breaking News. At a Senate Armed Services Committee hearing on Thursday, Senator Elizabeth Warren questioned Secretary of the Army Christine Wormuth. The Democratic senator condemned the budget request for not prioritizing the improvement of, quote, substandard military housing. Wormuth pushed back against Senator Warren, saying that it is not possible to improve all of the housing on military bases in just 1 year. Take a listen to the back and forth.
Thank you to our two witnesses for being here today. At the end of the day, budgets are a statement of our values. I don't like the statement being made by the Army budget request. We have all heard the horror stories of substandard on-base housing. Military families across the country live with black mold and collapsed ceilings and electrical and fire hazards and a lot of other substandard conditions. And after this scandal was exposed, then Acting Secretary of Army Ryan McCarthy said, before this committee, military housing was, quote, our top quality of life priority, and we are aligning resources against it, end quote. Secretary Wormuth, do you agree that safe and healthy housing conditions for military families should be a top Army priority?
I do, Senator Warren.
Good. I agree with you on this. Secretary Wormuth, the Army's base budget just submitted to Congress requests for $1.9 billion in funds for military construction and family housing. Is that correct?
Yes, I believe so, Senator.
Okay. The reason I wanted to clarify on how committed the Army is to addressing the military housing problem is because that $1.9 billion in the Army's base budget represents a cut to military housing and construction funding by nearly 40% compared with last year. Now, another big chunk of the money needed to address the problem, evidently you think there's still work to be done, another $330 million is on a separate list typically referred to as the unfunded priorities list. This so-called unfunded priorities list is a way for the Pentagon to pad spending over and above the official budget. And it's not just a few extras. The Army's list this year adds up to $5.1 billion. Typically, the Pentagon takes some of the most popular items that it wants funded, excludes them from the base budget, puts them on the unfunded priorities list, and then dares Congress not to jack up its budget above the Pentagon's initial submission. So, Secretary Wormuth, during your confirmation hearing, you agreed that substandard military housing was both a readiness and a retention problem. You just told us it should be a top Army priority. So why didn't you include the whole request in your base budget?
Senator, thanks for that question. And as I was just saying to Senator Hawley, we have a very large footprint with a large number of bases. All of them have housing. And I would love nothing more than to be able to renovate all of the housing around the country that needs to be renovated in a single year. But we are not able to do that at the same time that we are trying to transform ourselves in terms of modernization in a way that we haven't done for 40 years, and also maintain all of the readiness that we need to be able to respond quickly as we have to the situation in Ukraine. So we are trying to balance a number of competing demands. And we put, almost $2 billion in for family housing and barracks. And then we're required by law, the chief is, to submit an unfunded priorities list.
Look,
and I'll let him speak
is
to
not
the details.
whether or not you have an unfunded priorities list. I understand that. My question is why housing ended up on it and why your base budget is a 40% cut on housing. I understand it's a 40% cut over just the year before. And look, I just look at it this way. Military families need this funding and they should get it. We need to fix our shameful military housing problem and we need to do it as quickly as possible. These wish lists distort the budget process and we should end this game. It is not worthy of our military. Either have the courage to ask for more money up front, or better yet, cut something else from your budget so that you've got enough room to be able to keep the promises that you made to military families. If taking care of military families is truly a priority, then you should be including it in including their needs in the base budget request, not using military families as pawns to game the budget system for more dollars. So I just feel really frustrated about this process. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Warren. Senator